By now, you should know the drill. A group of teens, or maybe just one, goes to summer camp, or perhaps opens a mysterious box, or finds a pot of gold. And soon enough, the walls are painted in blood, and a final girl is readying up to end things. So far, so standard issue slasher. But in these notoriously sequel-happy franchises, such formulas can quickly wear thin. So what happens when the audience grows tired of the same old stories and starts craving something new? You can't swap the slasher, so you swap the setting. Strikingly, there are 3 main candidates for a slasher sequel setting: Hell, Space, or New York. And if your franchise runs long enough, you just might do them all. Let's look at Friday the 13th. The first installment establishes the formula well, following a series of revenge killings at Camp Crystal Lake, although famously the main killer is not, in fact, Jason Voorhees.
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Beginning with Jason's debut in the second film, the franchise managed to get through a final chapter, the 4th film of 13, and a soft reboot before switching settings in Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Camp Crystal Lake is located somewhere in New Jersey, so this wasn't much of a commute for Jason, with the majority of the runtime taking place on a boat cruising down the river to the Big Apple. It's only in the final act of the film that Jason actually arrives in New York City, and a staple scene of these urban installments plays out. The slasher gets to punish some street punks.
Yo man, it's cool, man, it's cool.
Following this, the settings for Friday the 13th films and Jason's repeat resurrections become less and less grounded, eventually following him into hell and then into space in the laughable Jason X, leading to a reboot some years later. By contrast, the supernatural premise of Hellraiser means a much less gradual switch in settings is required. In the first Hellraiser film, teenager Kirsty Cotton falls foul of the Cenobites, extra-dimensional goths summoned by the activation of a puzzle box called the Lament configuration.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Despite the fantastical premise, Hellraiser is largely set in one house, with the first sequel, Hellbound, picking up soon after with Kirsty in a mental asylum before moving to the main event. A journey into hell, the home turf of the Cenobites. Although Hellraiser's subject matter makes it an ideal fit for a jaunt to the underworld, this setting has proved less popular with other slasher franchises, perhaps because of the relative expense in realising it on screen. And it's typically relegated to brief glimpses, usually detailing a killer's resurrection. If your franchise is really running low on ideas, the next logical step is space. Justifying this might require some imaginative leaps, like a 100-year time jump or cloning. If you're feeling lazy though, there's nothing to stop you just doing the same old thing but in a spaceship. Leprechaun in Space takes just this approach.
Good evening.
Lubdan, formerly seen in contemporary American settings looking to reclaim his pot of gold or enact revenge, appears here on a distant planet in the year 2096. After a marriage attempt is thwarted by a ship full of space marines, he starts to murder his way through the crew. Despite the difficulties in justifying a shift in location and tone, a startling new setting like space can offer the franchise some new opportunities for gory deaths.
Boyo, it's time you were punished.
With exciting options including DNA alteration, liquid nitrogen, and explosive decompression. If Hell, Space, or New York don't fulfill the franchise's creative direction, other popular options remain, such as The Hood, distinct from New York in its specific focus on rap and Black American characters.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned my thing. From the Emerald Isle to your place in the hood, I'm the man of green, come to do no good.
Or the ever-popular virtual reality. And these settings don't need to be limited to slashers. Just take the Muppets. After their first film, they went to New York, titled uncannily like Jason's Flying Visit, and later they went into space to trace Gonzo's heritage. Tracking this trajectory against slasher franchises, the next step for Kermit and company is surely Muppets in Hell. Only time will tell.
Oh, Piggy, I'm writhing in eternal damnation.